I've asked Coach Dixon to just share a little bit about just a coach who has that cared and made an impact on him, and he's willing to do that. So I'm going to let him go here.
Again, thank you, Josh. Yeah, and I've had a lot of coaches now impact me as a player, but even as a coach. And I know not many folks in this profession can boast this piece. And Bob Ledbetter, Steve Lineweaver, Kenny Cook, those are Hall of Honor coaches who impacted me my very first year coaching. And then from there to go to a place like Katy where Mike Johnston and Gary Joseph, again, those are Hall of Honor coaches impact me. And they all have a special place in my heart. There was a time when my coaching journey led me through Ennis, Texas. And even before I was hired in Ennis, I was the head coach at Palmer, Texas, and fighting like crazy to try to find a way to win ball games. And I met Sam Harrell, and we had kids that were attending summer workouts there from Palmer. Palmer's adjacent to Ennis, and we had a few kids that were working in the summer with Ennis guys. And so I got to know Sam a little at that time. I was struggling as a young head coach, and it was a time in my career which I was questioning whether or not I even need a coach. Didn't want to move my family again, and I was just struggling. And I didn't really know Sam other than I met him in the field house when our kids work out. I just met him, but some folks are just special, and there was something about him. So I reached out to Coach Harrell and said, "Hey, would you mind giving me a few minutes? I got some stuff on my heart. I need some advice." And he said, "Coach, you come talk to me anytime." And I did. I opened my heart to him. I told him the battles I was having at Palmer, and I wouldn't do that with just anybody. But he made it very inviting for me to do that, and I'm glad I did. He gave me some wisdom. She gave me shared some stories, some personal stories, and just encouraged me, probably more than anything, encouraged me to hang in there in this profession, and I did. And so fast forward that I was still at Palmer, and so I made a decision to leave Palmer that spring, and Sam, I didn't know where I was going to go. I knew I didn't want to move, but I put it in God's hand. And I received a call from Sam saying, "Hey, I may have a job for you." And so it's a math position, a position coach on staff. And I don't have it yet, but I may have one become open. And so I was appreciative of that. And God worked, and weeks later, that job did come open, and I took a job. And so I got to go learn from him. And so he didn't have to at all. He was already an established coach and established a program, and things were moving in a great direction in this. But he valued me as a young guy that he didn't have to do that, but he did. He knew more football than I ever knew, and yet he would listen to me, and I appreciated that part. And I know I've told him. He knows what I think about it. I mean, he's a special guy, and but as a young coach who'd just been through a tough road, and he encouraged me, he lifted me up, he valued me. He listened to me, and I made mistakes like we all do, coaching wise, but he mentored, and I was on staff with him for 3 years, Here's what I noticed with Coach Harrell. Okay, he's a brilliant coach, but I don't know if I've ever been around a man who understood relationship building with kids.
Mm.
So, and it's pretty special. I mean, we didn't have a bunch of deacons at Dennis. We had some good people and good kids, but they needed people like Sam, and he taught me this. We got to hold kids accountable. So you have to do that. People are going to learn. You have to hold them accountable. Okay, we don't need to run kids off, and that's too easy. So the coaching part is getting that guy to conform to what you want. And that guy may live in project homes and may live with grandparents and may be around all kind of junk at home. But he still has a soul and a good spirit, and he was a worker, and he's going to be a man someday. And we want him to buy into what we're teaching is good. And I saw him do that with a lot of folks that many coaches would have just punted on down the road. And those people in Ennis would do anything for Sam, anything. And there's been many a young life that are very successful today because he didn't punt them down the road. And so I took that, and I've used it ever since. I mean, you got to hold them accountable, okay? But you got to love them, and you can't. And there comes a time, I guess, in your career where guys just aren't going to get it. But more times than not, if you just hang in there with them, they'll start to reflect your values. And so I saw that in Sam, and not just with kids, but with coaches. So I said that. Here's another thing that stood out to me, Coach Harrell. So a lot of coaches, head coaches, want to go in, and the first thing they want to do is they want to clean house and bring in their people, right? And there's some merit to that to a point. Coach Harrell comes in, and Coach Paul Willingham, who's an amazing person and coach, and he's again, this staff that was at Ennis was the best I've been around, and Paul is an Ennis guy, and he lived in Ennis before Sam ever came to Ennis, and Sam comes to and what did he do? He didn't run Paul off. He saw the value in that guy, and there's a lot of value. And Paul's promoted to he runs the defense. He's his right hand guy, and I thought, man, you can do that and have success, and boy, I mean, they did, and Paul's a big part of that. I don't think they win all those state championships without that move.
Yeah.
And then it was not just Paul, and then. And you had Paul, you had Steve Morrow and Wayne Walker. I mean, he just had a staff of guys who had bought in, and they loved working for him. There was no turnover ever, hardly, with Coach Harrell and staff, and so that's why when after 3 years, and I did receive a call to go back to Katy. I know he knows it was a burden on me. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. In fact, I told Coach Johnston no, and he said pray, and I did. And when you pray and God comes back and that door moves, you got to be obedient and take it. And that's the only reason I left. And it was hard leaving Ennis, going to Katy. And Manny and I both cried like babies. Not because we're having to move again or going to a bad place, because we knew Katy was an amazing place to go, but because we're leaving a coaching staff that had been built by Sam Harrell, the culture that had been built, the community started buying into that culture. We loved it there, and I was learning so much. I knew we were going to be good football wise, but it was a hard move, but. Sam only for 3 years impacted me more than he ever realizes, and I'm eternally grateful for him. We need more guys like Coach Harrell in this profession. Anyway,
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach Harrell.